Right. For today, we're going to learn data preparation topic, preparation data for analysis using SPSS. So, in research, right, once you already construct a problem statement, right, you already gone through to a research process, right, and you already know what is your objective, literature review, and you already constructing your methodology topic, and you already distribute your questionnaire to respondent to answer the question. Then after you got the feedback from the respondent, and then you need to do a data preparation from a raw data, right? So how are you going to utilize your raw data into a meaningful uh, and interpretation that can meet your objective, right? So there is why data preparation is important. So data preparation is coming once you already having a feedback from a respondent. So you already got the data. So topics that we will cover for today is a method for processing data in quantitative research, how to coding and analyzing and analysis. And then we're going to look a brief on getting started with SPSS. So this is a single double S only. So creating SPSS dataset, saving and retrieving data file, importing data from Excel, and so on, and computer research lah. So for introduction, if you are doing research study, so you would by now have reached a stage where you have either or collected the required information lah. So you already have done a data collection part. So the next step, what to do with this information. So how to find an answer to your research question. How to make sense of the information collected. How to prove or disprove hypothesis that you already made. How the information can be analyzed to achieve the objective of the study. So this is the main thing that we want to consider once you already have the data. So we need to do some number of procedure that constitute the core of data processing lah. So this is the step in data processing. So once you already have the quantitative raw data, which is if you are doing questionnaire, doing interviews, observation, group interviews, or even you are using a secondary data source. So once you already have the data, then you're going to go to the next step, which is editing and coding step. So in editing and coding step is involving developing a code book, pre-test the code book, coding the data, and verifying the code data. So this is the 4 elements that important in doing coding stage. So once you're already done with the coding stage, then you're going to start with the analysis, right? So in analysis, we are developing a frame of analysis. So in frame of analysis, we have either using a computer or manual analysis. So normally, in this era, we are doing a lot of analysis using computer. So it will save a lot of time. And normally, if we are using a statistical software, there are a lot of statistical analysis offered by that software, such as a linear regression, computing descriptive statistics. Just within a second, one click only, then you will get all the result instantly, right? But before you get the result, you need to make sure your data is clean, right? And then for qualitative data, qualitative analysis, then going to be a content analysis using in vivo and so on lah. Right, these procedures are same with quantitative and qualitative study. So what we do inside each procedure are different, right? So part 1, processing data. So in processing data, we have editing data, right? So in editing data, irrespective of the method of data collection, the information is collected, we call as a raw data or simply data lah. So the first hand information that you get, we call as a raw data. So the data is not yet clean. So is not ready for the analysis. Right. So you need to clean the data first before you go to analysis. So that's why the first step that you're going to clean the data we call as editing process. So the first step of processing data is to ensure the data is clean. So this is the main objective of processing data, right? The process if cleaning, the process of cleaning is called editing lah. So editing consists of scrutinizing the complete research instrument to identify and minimize error. So this is the one of the objective of data cleaning. We want to identify where is the error has been done. So you need to remember, if you have a raw data from a raw questionnaire, so let's say you're giving a respondent with a paper questionnaire. So once you got the response from the respondent, so you need to transform the raw data from the paper to a computer, to a machine. So when you key in or data entry, maybe as a human, you might do some error. Means that if instead of you tekan 2, you maybe will tertekan 3, right? Or maybe during the interview phase, right? You already asked the question to the respondent, but you forgot to write down in your question sheet, answer sheet. So that's going to be an error also, right? So we want to identify where is the error at, and we want to know how to rectify that error. Either we're going to guess the missing value, or you're going to go back to the respondent and ask back the response. So this is another thing that we're going to look at, incompleteness, misclassification, and gaps or in the information obtained. Right. So why editing data? Sometimes, as I said just now, we forget to ask the question to the respondent. So maybe we know that the question are there, but we forgot to ask the question. Forget to record the response. Wrongly classify the response. Instead of, let's say the gender of the respondent is male, you misclassified as female. So that's going to be an error. So this is just a normal human error, right? So write only half of response. Maybe you are doing interviews, the respondent are keep giving a long answer, so you forgot to write everything. So you just only write half of the response, right? Write illegibly. So illegally means that you are not writing the answer that the respondent give to you. Right, so this is the reason why we need to do edit data, right? So how to check the content for completeness? So there are 3 methods to check the content for completeness. So by inference, so by content of completeness means that sometimes you forgot to fill in the answer in the one of the section, right? So you want to know why that question are missing with answer. So there are 3 steps. First is by inference, second is by recall, and third is going back to the respondent. By inference means that sometimes in a questionnaire we have a several section, and each section we can predict the answer of each section we can predict on the next section. So certain question in research instrument may be related to one another. So it might be possible to find out the answer to one question from the answer to another. Means that, let's say, look at this questionnaire. So I'm going to give you this questionnaire later. Let's see. So let's say this is a questionnaire, right? Let's look at this section. This is basically section A, represent optimism, right? So let's say first a respondent already answered the first question, second, third, fourth, and fifth question, but you forgot to write down answer for question number 6. So basically, this question is asking about the optimism scale, right? Kalau respondent tu optimistic means penuh dengan keyakinan, so basically untuk first question they will answer 5 or 4, right? So question number 2, if something go wrong, for me it will means that it going to answer 1 or 2. So daripada sini kita boleh detect, right? So dia adalah seorang yang optimistic, right? So kalau dia tinggal soalan nombor 6 ni, kita boleh predict whether it's going to be 1 or 5, 1, 2, 3 or 5, right? Kalau dia adalah seorang yang optimistic for the first question until question number 5, so dia akan jawab berkenaan dengan dia akan bagi jawapan yang lebih kepada optimistic, right? So kita akan dapat detect lah sini. So this is the objective for by inference. So by recall, so but by for inference you need to be very careful, right? So sometimes you judge the respondent, right? So by recall, if the data is collected by means of interview, sometimes it's possible to do a recall of the respondent answer lah. Kita boleh ingat balik, right? But this is must be extremely careful lah. And the last step is by going back to the respondent, right? So if you're not sure, and by inference also not sure, by recall also cannot recall, you basically go back to the respondent, ask back the question, the related question only. So this is how to check the content for completeness. Right. So next step, this is still under step number 1. Step number 1 is processing data. Then we're going to code the data into the machine, right? So before we code the data into a machine, you need to understand the scale of measurement for each item, for each variable. Either it's a nominal scale, ordinal, ratio, or interval, right? So this is the main and important thing to know before we do a coding, right? If a data is asking about categorical data, let's say for example your gender, male or female, so it should be classified under nominal scale. If the data is asking about age, right, so the age is open-ended, means the respondent will giving any age of their answer, so it's going to be a ratio or interval, right? So you need to differentiate the type of question. So normally the data are going to be either quantitative or qualitative. Qualitative is going to be either categorical or descriptive response. The descriptive response is basically open-ended, asking for opinion. So the respondent will give all their opinion there lah. So next, the method of coding is largely dictated by two considerations. First is the way a variable has been measured. So this is the importance of measurement scale. Right? If a response to a question is a descriptive or categorical or quantitative, right? And second way to coding for coding is the way you want to communicate the finding about the variable to your reader. Means that if you are measuring height, you want to know the is there any difference of mean height between male and female? So variable height should be in quantitative, means the open-ended. Male and female should be a categorical data, male or female. So then you can apply this to a independent sample t-test to achieve your objective, right? So by now you already know when you creating your objective, you should also predicting what type of question that you want to create. Then when you're doing a coding, you should know, you should meet the criteria of the analysis. So if you want to do an independent sample t-test, what is the requirement for independent sample t-test? The dependent variable should be a numerical, and independent variable should be a categorical with two level. So you need to differentiate the level of measurement, right? So coding, by the way variable has been measured. So this is the important thing that as I said before. So this one dah ke belum? Right. Ulang benda yang sama lah. So step of coding. So there are 4 steps of doing coding. Coding not like this. We are not doing a programming coding, but we're going to code the value. Means that, let's say, let's look at this questionnaire again. For example, let's say sex, which is gender, male and female. So please take whichever applies. So respondent, let's say the male respondent will tick on male. So how are you going to code this? So in machine, in SPSS or computer software, so either you're going to code this one as 1, 2 or 0, 1, right? So you need to decide what are the value of coding that you want to use. I say male as 1, female as 2. So once you already have the data, the answered questionnaire, so you can easily enter the data into computer. If the respondent is male, you just click 1. If the respondent is female, you just click 2. Right, this is a objective of coding. Objective of code book. So another example of code book, let's say, let's look at this one. So kita tengok dekat bawah ni. This is example of code book, right? So once you already have the questionnaire, you need to design your code book. So let's say for sex, the SPSS variable name is sex, 1 for male, 2 for female. So age, the variable name is age with small letter A, and the coding instruction in years means that the respondent will enter whatever their age lah. So for marital status, so for SPSS variable name is marital with small letter M, 1 for single, 2 for steady relationship, and so on lah. So if you look at the questionnaire, it's already coded here, right? So let's look at number 5. What is the highest level of education that you have complete, right? So if you look at a code book, so highest education, the SPSS variable name is edu, and 1 for primary, 2 for secondary, and so on. So this is how you design a code book, right? So then you need to pre-test the code book. Pre-test the code book means that once you already designed the code book like this, you need to get one answered questionnaire, right? Questionnaire yang sudah di-answer, then you try to key in your machine. So either is easy to key in or hardly to key in. Either is going to easily to make a mistake or not make easy to make a mistake. So if let's say you put male equal to 0 and female equal to 1. If you are doing a coding instruction like this, right? For example lah, male equal to 0, female equal to 1. So if you are using a laptop, with small laptop, this means that you don't have a number pad, right? So it's hard to key in, right? So 0 ada dekat sebelah kanan, 1 ada dekat sebelah kiri. So number tu jauh. So easy to make a mistake. And it will consume a lot of time lah, consume a lot of effort to key in. So you might need to change to 1 and 2. So 1 and 2 senang saja, semua sebelah kiri. Right? So that is the objective of pre-testing the codebook. And then number 3 is you just coding the data. Right? And number 4, verifying the coded data means that once you already key in the data, enter the data, you need to verify whether the data that you already entered does not contain any misclassified data. Means that instead of you nak tekan 2 for female, you tekan 3. Right? You need to identify where is the error. Instead of you think that you already coded everything, but instead you nak check whether where is the missing coded value. Ada tertinggal ke tak tertinggal. So that is the step, the objective of verifying the coded data lah. Right, so this is developing a codebook. So a codebook provides a set of rules for assigning a numerical value to answer obtained from respondent. So this is an example of questionnaire. So this questionnaire you can get it from buku Ranjit Kumar, right? Buku Ranjit Kumar chapter number 15, right? So your current age is incomplete years. So means that this is a open-ended, means that respondent will enter their age, any of their age. So your marital status, currently married, living with a factor, relationship, separated, divorced, respondent will tick lah. So this one, you need to give a code. Whether this one is 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. Right? Sama juga for 2B, if tertiary or university, please specify the level achieved by an area of study. So respondent will take lah. So this one you need to code either associate diploma 1, 2, PhD 5, so on lah. So this is open-ended question, giving the opinion. So you need to create a string data variable type, right? So you can type anything here. So this is going to have two variables. So before deployment, after deployment. So you're going to have two variables, right? So this is example of codebook for that questionnaire, right? So remember, you know how to do a codebook. So this is how we do a codebook. So this is the same basically with this one, right? Benda yang sama saja. So basically we have a variable name and full variable name, or you can just specify the question or section item, and then the response pattern. So this is a coding instruction lah. So for 20 to 24, just code 1. Right? You can do either this type of coding a code book or this type of code book. Either one is same, right? So pre-testing the code book. So nanti kita ada hands-on sikit lah. Pre-testing the code book. Once the code book is designed, it is important to pre-test is for any problem before you code the data. A pre-test involves selecting a few questionnaire or interview schedules and actually coding the response to ascertain any problem in coding. As I said before, kalau you letak 0 for male, 1 for female, so it's hard to do a coding. So you need to find a method to make your data entry easy and fast. So it is possible that you may not have provide some response and therefore will unable to code them. So let's say the respondent really did not answer the question. So how are you going to code the missing answered question, right? So there are method either in SPSS. Let's say you are using SPSS, you just provide a number 9 to indicate missing value, or 99 or 999 to indicate a missing value, right? In, let's say you are using starter, same as SPSS. Instead of giving 9 for missing data, you can put dot, just a simple dot to indicate a missing data. But the nice way, the proper way, is to give a value for a missing data, right? So coding the data, once your code book is finalized, the next step is to code the raw data. There are 3 ways to do this, right? First is coding on the questionnaire, right, or interview itself. Right? If space for coding was provided at the time of constructing the research instrument, but this one is basically not an effective way because we want to directly input our data into a machine, right? So coding on separate code sheet such as an Excel before we convert to the SPSS or SAS data as well is not an effective way, right? So the only effective way is by coding directly to computer using program, right? So nowadays, many statistical programs, statistical software have made our data entry environment more friendly, right? So you should use directly enter the data into statistical software. Okay. So this is an example of answered question for respondent number 59. So we should have identification of the respondent. This is respondent number 59. So the current age is 45, currently married, and this is the level of achievement. Dia kata dia ada bachelor degree by behavioral science. And it does not, they give some opinion here: less responsibility, more specific job, restrict scope, and they already answered the question here, right? So now kita nampak dekat sini dia double tick here. Double tick here means it doesn't mean that the respondent answered this item twice. It means that if you have a raw data questionnaire, you akan nampak lah jawapan-jawapan yang teruk macam ni. So you just consider this one as one answer, right? So this is an example of coded data on code sheet. So it's going to be very messy and hard to understand the data if you are transferring your data into a code sheet, not directly to the machine or computer, right? So you're going to waste a lot of time lah, right? So that's why I suggest you to directly input or key in the data into a statistical software. So this is an example of coded data on SPSS. This is SPSS version 12, right? So this is example of input data data you already key in, right? So once you already input a data or key in the data into a statistical software, right? So you need to verify the coded data. Once the data is coded, select a few research instruments at random and record the response to identify any discrepancy in coding. Right? Continue to verify coding until you are sure there are no discrepancy, and if there are discrepancy, re-examine the coding. Right? So I'm going to show this step later. So we're going to screen whether the data have a missing value or miscoded, right? So we're going to look at by using SPSS, right? So by using SPSS and other statistical software is going to be easy and save a lot of time to identify a missing or miscoded value, right? So once you already code the data, key in the data, and rectify or verify the coded data, now you're going to enter a new phase, which is analyzing the data, right? To analyze the data means that you need to analyze data based on to answer your objective. So let's say for your objective is to find the mean height between male and female. So you need to have, what are the variable involved in that objective? We have height, we have gender, male and female. So if you want to find the difference of mean height or between male and female, so the statistical method is independent sample t-test or man-Whitney test if the data is not normal, right? So that is the main thing lah, the requirement of using that statistical test. So first is you need to develop a frame of analysis. So once you already develop a frame of analysis, analyzing data manually or using computer software. But I don't think now people are doing analyzing data manually, right? Because it will cost you a lot of time, and you will sometimes you will do a lot of error in calculation. So better use a computer software such as frequency distribution, percentage, mean, and so on. And if you are examining the relationship between variables, you can use linear regression, logistic regression, correlation analysis, and so on, and other statistical procedure. Right. Other statistical procedures such as if you are doing a pilot test right now, you can do a principal component analysis to test the reliability and to classify each item into one section or that section. Right. So the most important thing is in analyzing the data is we need to make sure our objective to be addressed. Means that you need to answer all the objective. Right. So that is the main objective for analyzing data. So developing a frame of analysis. So you need to pay attention on developing a frame of analysis. So frame analysis should specify which variable you are planning to analyze. You are not going to analyze everything, right? So sometimes you are asking a question that are not related to your objective. So you need to make sure identify which of the variable that suitable to answer your objective, right? So and how they should be analyzed. Let's say you want to know, as I said before, example, you want to know the difference of mean height between male and female. So how are you going to analyze the objective? You need to have two variables, height and gender, male or female, right? So how are you going to analyze? You're going to use an independent sample t-test. So what cross tabulation you need to work out? So if you want to know the association, or you want to compare between 2 or 3 categorical variable, right? So you need to do a cross tabulation, right? So which variable you need to combine to construct a major concept or to develop index, right? So sometimes, let's say kita tengok let's say ethnicity. Let's say your data collection part is, let's say have some loophole. Let's say you are distributing your questionnaire to Malay, for example, a lot of Malay, and you have lists of Indian and Chinese respondent. So if you are doing let's say chi-square analysis, sometimes the assumption of chi-square analysis will not met because the cell or expected count for Chinese and Indian is going to be less than 5. So what you need to do is you're going to combine Indian and Chinese cell together to meet the assumption for chi-square analysis, right? So this is the frame of analysis. The most important part is which variable you are planning to analyze and how they should be analyzed, right? So this is the most important part in frame of analysis. Remember, huh? So now we already finished data preparation. So I'm going to do some demonstration using SPSS, right? So we're going to use data survey 5 edition, right? And then the codebook dekat sini. So this is the codebook, and we're going to do a frame of analysis on demos, graphic, and optimism scale, right? Optimism scale and so on lah. And we're going to check for any error, coding error, check for any missing data, right? So just for our demonstration, after this, I'm going to give you one data, right, for you to do a same step as I showed today, right? So now this is SPSS. I already opened Survey 5 edition, right? So we have two tab here, data view and variable view in SPSS. Basically, variable view is the place, the sheet where you key in or create your variable, or you need to address you need to add criteria to your variable. You can add in variable view. For example, if you look at sex here, so this is the variable name and the label is sex and the value is 1 and 2. 1 for male, 2 for female, right? So if you look at the data view tab, you can nampak dekat sini we already key in for sex 2, 1. 2 indicate female, 1 indicate male. If you look at tekan dekat sini this button, this is value label button, you can see male and female already coded, right? Now let's say kita nak tengok we want to see pretest. This is I'm skipping coding and pretest, verifying the code data, right? If you want to see whether your data is coded correctly or not correct, so you just highlight this one for SPSS version 2021 and above, right? Version 21 and above, baru dia ada this icon. This icon is a run descriptive statistics, right? So you just click this one, so you will get the result lah. So if you look at the result here, you can see they're going to give you two tables. One is statistic table, another one is the frequency table, right? The statistic table will give you the valid value and the missing value. So if you look at the sex variable, there are no missing value. Boleh nampak ke? Macam mana nak besarkan? I tak boleh besarkan. I don't know. Right. So kalau you nampak dekat sini, missing value is 0. Means that for sex variable, there are no missing value. And they also give you mode, range, minimum and maximum value. So the maximum value here is 3. The minimum value is 1. But if you look at the variable view, for sex, value should be either 1 or 2. If you look at the codebook as well, only 1 and 2. So mana datang 3 ni? Right? So mana datang 3? So kita tengok balik dekat sini. Ada berapa banyak 3 kita nak tengok. So kita tengok dekat frequency table. In frequency table, male is 185, female is 253, and there ada 3 dekat sini, only 1. The total respondent is 439. Right? So this is one misclassified coding. Misclassified coding means that I expect instead of dia nak letak 3 ni, dia nak letak 2 for female. Right? So we need to do verification. So you go back to the data view and click on find here. Dekat sini cari 3. Find next. So dia akan cari 3. This is the missing data lah. This is the misclassified data, right? So you can go. The function is same as Excel, huh? So just tekan replace, find 3, replace with 2. So replace all. So we're going to replace 2. So kalau kita tengok balik dekat sini, tekan descriptive statistics. Now the data is already verified, already corrected lah. Nampak tak? So this is a nice data. So now let's look at optimism scale. This is optimism 1 until 6. So this is the question that we're going to analyze. This one, scale A. This one, right? So we have 6 questions. Question 1 until question 6, right? So we just want to check or verify the data, whether the data is correctly classified or not classified. Either is there any missing value or no missing value. But before we do that, we just need to go to a variable view, look at the opt1 until opt6. So for opt1 until opt6, there are no value coded lah. But by default, we need to do a manual coded lah. So this is value 1 is representing strongly disagree. So strongly disagree, right? Value 2 disagree. Value 3, let's say neutral. Value 4 agree. Value 5 strongly agree, right? So then click OK lah. So you already code this value lah. So you just copy and paste here, right? Kita tengok dekat value ni, buka besar sikit. So kita dah coding dah 1 until 5 according to the codebook. So kita tengok codebook dekat sini. Where is it? Yep. Optimism scale 1 to 6. 1 is strongly disagree, 5 is strongly agree. So this is based on codebook. So we already follow the codebook. So this is how we do a coding in SPSS. Are you okay? Are you familiar with this step? Yang I tunjuk ni semua dah familiar ke belum? Are you familiar with this? So if you're not familiar, just tengok dulu. On the next class, I will start to show you how to use SPSS from beginning, right? From start. So I'm going to show you by using my book lah, right? So you already coding the value. So this is mastery. I delete this one first. I tak nak tengok ni. This is going to be removed lah. Oops. Right. So only for optimism 1 until optimism 6. So now we just highlight this one on data view tab, right? We just click on run descriptive statistics, right? So you will see the frequency value, right? But if you look at this result, right? This result we are not expecting this result, because for optimism scale, it should be a categorical variable, right? Because this is a categorical variable, right? So this is basically ordinal scale. It is using ordinal scale, kan, Likert scale. So it should be a categorical variable. But now, if you look at the result, SPSS treat this variable as a numerical scale. It's not treating this variable as a categorical scale. Macam mana nak tahu? Because it does not provide us with the frequency table. right? So you need to know for quantitative data, right, and qualitative data. For qualitative data, either nominal or ordinal, right? It's qualitative data. So it should present the frequency table. We cannot compute mean or standard deviation from a qualitative data. But if you look at this one, they are giving us mean and standard deviation, which is wrong, right? For a quantitative data, we should not construct a frequency table. It's going to be very, very messy, right? So in quantitative data, for numerical, for interval or ratio, we should construct mean, standard deviation, median, range, minimum, maximum, right? So I hope you clear about the type of data, type of variables, right? So if you have a categorical data, right, but if you see optimals, opt1, op1, op2, op3 until op6, so nampak tak ada letak kat sini ruler. For SPSS, if you have a bubble icon here before the variable name, it is a nominal scale. If you can see a bar chart here, so it is a ordinal scale. If you see ruler, it represents a numerical scale. In SPSS, it does not differentiate between interval and ratio scale. So for interval and ratio scale, it just conclude it into scale. So kalau kita tengok dekat sini, so kita ada name, type, width, atas name, type, width, decimal, label, value, missing, column, align, measure. So we're going to focus on measure. So dekat measure ni, kalau you tekan dekat sini, dia ada drop down, scale, ordinal, nominal. So you need to identify this type of variable is nominal ke, interval ke, ataupun nominal, ordinal, or numerical. For numerical, it's conclude under scale, right? So since we already know, for opt1 is a ordinal scale, so we just change this to ordinal for opt1 until opt6, right? Okay. Now, notice the difference. So nampak ni, this is the previous one. Kalau I tekan kat sini, daripada opt1 to opt6, instead of dia bagi kat kita ruler, now they already giving us bar chart icon, right? So you just highlight this one and click on run descriptive statistics, right? Nampak? So don't worry, next class I will show you how to use SPSS from the beginning, right? So now kalau kita tengok dekat sini, dia already, this is the, yeah, from here. Yep, sini. Daripada sini lah. Alright. So kita tengok dekat sini. This is the table they give us. In case if you want to see. Median, mean, mode, range ni. Kita perlu ignore lah. So you need to understand whatever you give to SPSS. Right. So they still can compute mean and standard deviation. Right. But we don't need mean and standard deviation for numerical data, which is wrong, right? So now we look at this one. For opt1, so there are valid data 435. There are 4 missing data for opt1. For opt2, we have 3 missing data. For until opt6, we have 3 missing data. So this is the way we to identify where is the missing data. Now, we can look at the frequency table and look one by one. So for opt1, so dia tak ada benda yang pelik dekat sini. 6 ke 7 ke. So dia tunjuk strongly disagree, natural, agree, strongly disagree. Strongly agree. So dia tak ada 6 ke 7 ke number-number pelik. So just indicate missing saja. Missing means that we have 4 missing data lah. So opti 4, opti 2 pun sama juga, opti 3 tak ada apa-apa yang pelik. So means that for opti 1 until opti 6 there are no misclassified data code, right? But the problem is we have a missing data. Now, so how to look at a missing data? So either we can scroll down one by one. Sangat teruk kalau you ada a very big data. So kalau you scroll down, you akan tunggulah. Kalau komputer you hang dan sakit hatilah, right? So either you can this one ataupun kita pergi ke data and kita tekan sort cases. Sort cases, kita pergi ambil OP1 until OP6. So kita tengok dekat sini, once you already sort the cases, dia akan appear all the missing data dekat atas, right? So kalau you tak letak ID for the respondent, dia akan pening lah. You tak akan tahu respondent mana yang missing. That's why when you code the data into SPSS or R or Stata or any statistical software, you need to code the ID for the respondent. So you know that this respondent 155 does not fill in this answer. So basically, kalau kita tengok dekat sini, 155 ni, dia banyak sangat dia tak isi. Dia isi belakang saja, satisfaction. Yang belakang-belakang saja. Tu pun dia banyak tinggal. Right? So, in research, right, in statistical analysis, kalau dia tak isi lebih daripada 20% of the number of item, number of question, we can omit that respondent. Kita boleh buang that respondent. Right? Tak guna kita nak simpan lagi respondent yang tak jawab. Right? So, basically, that's all for data preparation. Just a brief and fundamental knowledge that you need to know, right? For next class, I will show you how to use SPSS and for getting started lah, how to key in the data in SPSS and so on, right? So we already finished all the objective or demonstration lah. Right. Okay. Any questions so far before we end our session? And don't forget your quiz tomorrow at 4 o'clock, I think. Is it? 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Right.
Quiz esok dekat mana, sir?
Dekat mana?
Macam melalui